and all other criminal matters from investigation to trial. Let the criminal and DUI law firm of Leader & Leader PA explore all of your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of jail or prison time. Free in-office or telephone consultations for all criminal matters. Do not hesitate. Call the Criminal Law Leader today, 954-523-2020.
And we're back. Today is traffic day.
It must be.
Everybody is getting stuck in traffic. But that never hurts us at all because we can bring you the show.
We do it via
way.
phone.
And this half hour is another one of those great shows that I love doing. This is our criminal law show with Michael Leader of Leader & Leader, who is on
I'm
his way
looking at
in.
an empty chair.
I know, it's really
actually
weird.
waiting for him.
Mr. Passion is in his car stuck in traffic. So we're going to talk to him on the phone.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, guys. My apologies, and I appreciate your accommodation. It's a little crazy out here today.
I know that's what we heard from the previous attorney that was on, because she had traffic also. So anyway, so let's talk about your law firm. Tell everybody a little background about your law firm.
I'd love to. Thank you. I'm a former state prosecutor. I had experience in different capacities with 4 years with the state. I was recruited by them to do by the most preeminent DUI defense firm in the country at the time, which is why DUI has become an enormous part of my practice. At one time, that was all that I did. After my time with DUI, I actually went back and did some major complex civil litigation, multi-million-dollar cases, multi-party cases, medical, nursing homes, hospitals, and I got burnt out on that stuff. It's good work, but it just wasn't for me. I wasn't as passionate about it, and at the end of the day, I started Leader & Leader, and in that firm, we focus predominantly on state and federal criminal defense work, and I take all the experience that I've had, whether it be as a prosecutor, doing complex litigation, and the culmination of all my life's experience, including the time in that preeminent DUI firm where I was doing exclusively DUI, and I've learned, a methodology that I've created, and what I really call it, to tell you the best, is it is creating and practicing the art of winning, and it is an art, and that's what we do. My father is my partner. He's really retired at this point, but he's been a bar licensed attorney for about 64 years. So I do from time to time consult with him to get his insight and experience on unique or various matters. But pretty much this is my operation based on the culmination of life's experience. And thankfully our results for our clients reflect that life's experience has culminated well to defend my client.
And we have to mention that if you ever get stopped for a DUI, if you have a problem with a DUI, Michael is the attorney to go to, because this is his expertise.
And you know what, Michael, before we go any further, I want to tell everybody, you can actually watch our show right now live. You can go to www.criminallawleader.com. That's Michael's website. You want to go there anyway, and by the numbers, looks like a lot of people went there last month.
Well, did you find that the DUIs picked up over the holiday season?
It's strange. You would always expect 4th of July, New Year's Eve to be a huge influx, and I haven't necessarily seen that, which has always been odd to me in my 16 years of doing this. With that being said, it's hard to tell now. DUI arrests, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people get arrested for DUI, and don't roll the dice. My first advice is always, always, always take a cab, use Uber or something else. Don't drink and drive, because there's a chance you're impaired. But with that being said, the DUI arrests are actually down a lot over the last 10 years. So there are a lot of factors for that. There are a lot of work for the officers, a lot of overtime. They're not getting the same compensation as they did. There's just a lot of reasons for it. But at the end of the day, I've never really seen that direct correlation, which has always been odd to me, because intuitively you would expect that.
But Michael, something, I used to see traffic stops all the time, and I haven't seen those lately.
They're around. They have to publish the DUI checkpoints in the paper, But I would say in the last 6 months, between Miami and Broward, there's been at least 3 to 5 of them that I can recall. And those are interesting cases, and I'll tell you, we end up winning a lot of our DUI checkpoint cases, almost all of them.
Why is that?
There's a lot of technicality. There are a lot of technicalities with the way they make the stops, the way they publish the notifications, the way they detain you once you're stopped. So the more requirements and more hurdles that law enforcement have to go through to make it legal, the easier it is for me to do my job and find problems with the way they did theirs.
Hey, Michael, we had somebody email us, speaking of these traffic stops, we had someone email us, asked us to ask you, what is going on with these traffic cameras right now? I keep hearing all different types of stories. They're not prosecuting those anymore. They are. What's going on with these the traffic cameras on the lights?
Well, I can tell you a very good friend of mine actually he used to be an office mate of mine, handled the appeal on that. And ultimately what happened was they challenged these on a lot of different ways, and ultimately there was a ruling with respect to the city of Fort Lauderdale that the methodology in which they were doing it didn't meet muster, and the courts weren't going to enforce them. Now, although that was only specific to Fort Lauderdale at the time, as far as I understand it, and you got to understand, I'm not a traffic lawyer. I don't generally handle civil infractions unless they're attached to the criminal case. So I don't deal a lot with red light cameras because those are normally where somebody's not stopped by an officer and it doesn't lead to anything criminal. But nevertheless, my understanding is there's a real issue and problem with the enforcement of those, and my advice would be to reach out to a qualified traffic ticket attorney that knows what they're doing and ask them before you pay or whether you decide to fight it or not. But right now, if you're still issued one, those very well may be worth fighting. But those procedures and mechanisms could be changed at any time, and the general public wouldn't necessarily know. So they shouldn't just assume that it's changed. They need to call an attorney that's dealing with that stuff and ask them, because as soon as they change the protocols and policies that were determined to be unlawful, then all of a sudden they could become lawful again.
Gotcha. Okay, this is my favorite question. I know I ask this every month. What makes your firm different from the thousands of criminal attorneys out there? What sets you aside from all the rest? I know you're a humble guy, but I know you'll give us a good answer.
Well, you know what? I would say, I know this sounds cheesy and hokey, but one of the biggest issues is I care. I genuinely care about my clients.
He absolutely does, yes.
And I care about my outcomes. And, look, there are a lot of good lawyers out there, but there are a lot of bad lawyers out there. There are a lot of burnt-out lawyers, and there are a lot of lazy lawyers. And I hate to say it because I love my profession. I love what I do, and I'm proud of being a lawyer, and I make a difference. I change people's lives in the outcomes I get for them and, in helping them when they really need and deserve the help. With that being said, there are also a lot of other good lawyers. I'm not saying nobody's a good lawyer or a great lawyer but me, but with that being said, it is the experience that I have, the work that I'm willing to put in. I'm innovative in my approaches. I'm knowledgeable. I'm aggressive. But again, it comes down to really caring. Now, here's the other thing. I was a high school football player. I played competitive USTA-ranked tennis as a kid. I was a national debater in high school. I've always been involved in competition. So I'm a competitive person by nature. I don't let it get the better of me to my client's detriment, but I don't like losing. So whereas a lot of lawyers will just take the plea and throw in the towel, I fight until there's no fight left because I do not like to give up. I'm not a quitter. I don't like to lose. I think that makes a big difference. So as much as I'm fighting for my clients, I'm also fighting for my own ego. And frankly, if I didn't have the outcomes and results that I have for my clients, they're less likely to refer their friends and tell the next guy that I'm the lawyer they should hire.
That's absolutely true.
There's a personal motivation in it as well.
Renee and I are here sitting like a bunch of bobbleheads because
we're agreeing with you, absolutely, because he has so much passion. And you want somebody that has that fight and wants to fight with you. Because especially for a DUI, I'm not saying any other criminal case, but tell everybody what happens once you get arrested for a DUI. What can happen to them?
Well, it's brutal. The law, listen, DUI is a serious crime, and it's not normally about what happened, but what could have happened. And when you see the serious injuries and the dead bodies, you understand it better than ever. With that being said...
Right, well, that's the worst case scenario, yes.
The penalties in DUI compared to any other crime are off the charts in Florida to what you face. You could literally steal a Ferrari and go joyride and get caught for Grand Theft Auto and walk away easier than you could for a DUI. Now, the difference is it's a felony versus a misdemeanor, but you can get a withhold, which means no conviction. You can get it sealed from your record. With a DUI, if you're convicted, it's a mandatory conviction. There's thousands of dollars in court costs, fines, probation, license suspension, interlock devices on your vehicle boots, and immobilization. The list goes on, and that doesn't even count the administrative suspension that the DMV will hit you with, separate apart from the criminal case.
And you can lose your license as well, right?
What's that?
Do you your license get suspended as well?
Yeah, you can lose your license, depending on the situation, anywhere from 6 months to lifetime.
Wow.
So it's pretty serious stuff.
Hey, Michael, we're going to go to break, but I want you to think about when we come back. You've always got the greatest stories of cases you've handled and the outcome. Would love to hear one or two of them if you don't mind. So we're going to go to break.
Today talking about other lawyers, but I will be in person upstairs with you guys.
Oh, good.
Perfect. We're going to break, and when we come back, we're going to have Michael Leader in person with Leader and Leader. We'll be right back.
Mr. Passion.
Yes.
Goodbye.
When you need an aggressive, experienced, and knowledgeable criminal or DUI defense attorney, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA. With nearly 80 years of combined experience, Michael D. Leader is a former prosecutor with considerable experience, not just in all areas of criminal law, but also DUI defense. Michael Leader has dedicated his entire practice to the art of defeating DUI and criminal cases for a period of time. The criminal and DUI defense law firm of Leader & Leader, PA has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case in order to tailor the approach and defense to each individual client and their needs. They are always available to their clients. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense, including DUI, federal drug charges, white-collar crime or fraud cases, theft offenses, violations of probation or early termination, and all other criminal matters from investigation to trial. Let the criminal and DUI law firm of Leader & Leader, PA explore all of your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of jail or prison time. Free in-office or telephone consultations for all criminal matters. Do not hesitate. Call the Criminal Law Leader today, 954-523-2020.
And we're back. We're waiting for attorney Michael Leader.
Well, sometimes the elevators in this building, they work very slowly.
Well, you got to pull the rope yourself.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, you got to learn how to pull your own way. Hey, if you'd like to watch today's show right now, or you can actually go back later and watch today's show, go to www.criminallawleader.com. And it's so great to have such a great attorney.
And here he is.
He's got his suit on. He's probably got his Oakleys with him. You know. Oh, no. What is it?
I'm a Maui Jib and Revo guy.
Bro, you know what?
Guys can see him.
Good seeing you.
Too.
We do a lot of shows 2 days a week, every week. God, I love doing the show with you because, man, you've got the passion. You know what? You can tell that you really do care. And when you do criminal law, that's kind of hard to do sometimes.
I'll tell you what, I have given up 2 opportunities that I was involved with, firms that I started, that I built, walked away, left a lot of money on the table, and am making a lot less than I would. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I make a good living, but because I love what I do, and I had to find joy and pleasure and reward in what I was doing. So the other work I was doing where my former partners literally making ungodly amounts of money, which I would have had half of, it didn't matter because there was nothing rewarding to me about that work. It was just about the money, and my work can't be just about, I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to make a good living like everybody else, but I had to have some reward in what I was doing, and I really care about my cases. I care about my clients. Now, there are some cases I turn down because I just feel I'm not going to be able to fight for a client. It's rare, but there have been some significant molestation or sex-related cases I've referred out because I said, I don't want to fight for this guy. So if I'm not
That's
going to
commendable, I have to say.
well, listen,
that really is.
they're entitled to a defense and they're entitled to a lawyer, and I have no beef with the lawyers and commend the lawyers that represent them. And our system requires everybody to have adequate representation. But if I don't think I'm going to give 110% of what I can give to any case, then I shouldn't be the lawyer. And I want my clients to hire me because they feel I'm the right lawyer for them. With that being said, I want to share a story with you guys that happened.
First, tell me something else.
Yeah.
What did you learn from your dad?
Learned a lot from my dad. My father is my hero and role model in my life, and I'll tell you that without doubt. But the thing, my father was a Depression baby. He was in World War II in the Navy. He didn't go overseas, but he served, and he's an old school kind of guy that taught me a number of lessons. And I would say the first few are, number one, you're the only one that has to like the face staring you back in the mirror every day when you wake up. And I live my life by that. So I treat people the way I want to be treated, because I have to know that I treated them right and be okay with myself, number one. For example, I had a DUI case that I got thrown out before it was even filed for a client. And I waived the fee, and the person that referred it to me said, dude, he called me today. You didn't need to do that. She would have paid you the full fee. I said, it didn't matter. She would have. It was the right thing. I put in a fraction of the work, and sure, it happened in part because of my name and my reputation, but I want to be fair and reasonable with people. I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. So that's number one.
What attorney would do that? Not too many.
Not many. There are some very good ones out there that are honest and decent. And there are a lot of honest and decent ones.
Few and far between.
The other thing he taught me, and I was just teaching my son this as I was teaching him to wash a car with me, my 6-year-old boy, don't do something at all if you're not going to do it right. Either do it 110% or don't do it at all. And that was something I also learned from my father. He also taught me the value of $1. If we walked in a parking lot, I was too lazy to pick up a penny. I got smacked in the back of the head that I was too good to bend over to pick up a penny. And he said, you save every one. So,
and what kind of law did he practice?
He did. It was a different world back then, right? So he did general practice. He did a lot of family, a lot of business. He did business. He did a lot of adoptions. He dabbled in almost everything at one point or another. But a lot of his work was business related and family and adoption related. But an amazing man. I really should sit down with a video camera and have him tell his stories because he never wrote a book, but an amazing story.
Maybe we get him on the show one time.
We'd love to have him in the studio.
Cool. Getting down on the show with you and hearing about some of the stories in the past.
So let me tell you about this case today. I have a client. I represent the sister for something stupid. The brother has a problem in Miami where he's alleged of stalking his ex-girlfriend. His father's ex-girlfriend is a lawyer. She refers him to a lawyer, and for whatever reason, he's unhappy. It's early in the case, but he's nervous. He comes and sees me, forfeits the money that he paid that other lawyer, which was a pretty significant fee, and he hires me. And I immediately, the days in my office, reach out to the alleged victim, get her on the phone. I talk to her. Find out nobody's reached out to her. Not the other lawyer never even attempted to contact her. The state hadn't contacted her. She never knew my client was arrested. She never knew my client was charged. Didn't want any of this to happen. I prepared. She came in, met with me. We prepared an affidavit expressing all her thoughts and feelings. I'm dealing with a prosecutor for a couple of weeks down there. She said, well, I'm trying to get a hold of her. I got to talk to her. So we're not supposed to have anything meaningful today but a motion to continue the case. And I go down there, and in the abundance of caution, I had the alleged victim come to court today because I said, I just want to get this wrapped up. The prosecutor says to me, there's an affidavit in this case. Now, I'd emailed it to her, which was the first email she ever responded to of mine, and it was filed in the court file. So then 3 prosecutors are hovering, reading it in court for the first time that they've had it for well over a month. I've been asking them to drop the case. They're trying to get in touch with the victim, and if they never read the affidavit, I'm not sure why they were trying to contact her at my request, and they never tried on their own. My client's case, long story short, was dismissed today.
Wow.
And
of course it was.
He was at risk of losing. He's a ROTC. He's gotten a scholarship from them. He was at risk of having to pay somewhere between $40,000 and $100,000 back, losing his commission, losing everything. And thank God we were able to get it done. And it was the right thing. It's what should have happened. He probably should never have been charged to begin with. No priors, great kid. But this is where I made a difference where another lawyer, and he may be a good lawyer, but he wasn't aggressive. He was just sitting back waiting instead of being proactive.
Right, they didn't take that extra step.
So when you ask what makes me and my firm different, I think it's the knowing when to be aggressive, knowing when to lay back, but being proactive about my cases, not sitting around and waiting things to happen, making them happen. Because a lot of the times that is the big difference, and I find a lot of attorneys sit back and wait, and then things are gone, evidence is gone, things they can't get, and the entire outcome of the case may change solely because of that. So that's also another big factor that I think has a big
Well,
impact.
that's an amazing story.
Tell everybody, I saw something on television last night. An older woman was driving and she got pulled over, and she didn't think she should have been pulled over. And she gave this police officer, tell people if they get pulled over, how they should act. I mean, it's a shame you have to do that, but look at all the things that are happening nowadays, how aggressive people are
So the
getting.
problem is police officers are like everybody else, right? We have good doctors, bad doctors, good lawyers, bad lawyers. We have good cops and we have bad cops. There are a lot of good, honorable men putting their life on the line, serving and protecting us out there, and I'm going to take my hat off to them. I'm not one of these defense lawyers that hates all police officers. I've made relationships with people that I've had cases against. I've had officers I've gone against refer clients to me, their own friends and family. In fact, this other client I was talking about this morning, I never knew, and I just found out today that was actually referred from somebody that's seen me in court, that knows my work, and they may have been a prosecutor, they may have been a judge, they may have been a cop, but they were one of those three things. I'm not going to say what county they're from or where because the person wanted it to stay confidential, but that's a great, flattering thing to find out.
Absolutely.
So, you're doing something right when you get those kinds of referrals. But with that being said, police officers are personalities, they're human, so you never know who you're dealing with. So there's no one advice. So sometimes a client may never, ideally I want them never to admit to drinking because the admission can be used against them. On the other hand, you may have an officer that if you're honest and truthful and they really don't want to get bogged down with a DUI, may let you go if they think it's borderline, or they say, come and pick up a friend. I'm not saying that happens often, but it can happen.
That's a scary thought. You don't know.
If you lie, if they smell the alcohol and they know they smell the alcohol and you say, no, I haven't had anything to drink, they may get upset. And then for that reason, they say, in my mind, I was going to let him go, but now, heck with it. He lied to me. So you never know how that's going to unfold. So I can't give that kind of advice. But what I can say is this. Don't have an attitude. No matter what kind of attitude they have, be polite and respectful. If you really have a grievance, make a grievance at the department after the fact. More often than not, nothing's going to happen as a result of it. But if the same officer keeps on getting enough grievances from people, they're going to have to look at it and do something. You just say as little as possible. Don't lie, but if you think you're going to say something that's going to hurt yourself, don't necessarily volunteer or answer questions if you don't need to. And at the same time,
so if they ask you if you're drinking, you should admit to it.
I'm not. I know. In a perfect world,
okay.
in a perfect world, I would generally, me personally,
Yes.
If it was me, I would probably err on the side of not making any statements or admissions that could hurt me. But what I'm saying is, I've seen situations where officers had said to me, like with marijuana, I knew I smelled marijuana in the car, but if he just told me the truth, I would have thrown it out and let him go. Would they have really done that? I don't know. I do know officers that have done it. I do have clients that have told me that's happened to them and they got lucky. But the reality is, you don't know. So I've had officers say he lied and said he wasn't smoking, there was nothing in the car. I knew he was lying. I got upset at that point, so I searched the car. I found it. I arrested him. If he just said the truth and said, yeah, I have it, maybe he wouldn't have. I generally, as my rule to clients would have to be, don't incriminate yourself. If they say, can I search your car? My answer would always be no, because if they're asking, they probably don't have a basis to do it. And if there's something in there that they're going to find that could hurt me, now a lot of times people say, sure, no problem, and there's something in the car they didn't know because they share the car. If they're young kids, somebody dropped a joint under the seat in the back and they didn't know it was there. I've seen stuff like that happen tons of times.
Well, I have to tell you something about pulling kids over, especially because my son's in his 20s and he looks like, he would be the type of kid that is in trouble. And he's not. Knock on wood. I don't want to give any kind of horrors. But he gets pulled over a lot, and they, just for nothing, going down the street in Coral Springs. We live in Coral Springs. And they always say, can, we look through your car? And he says yes, because there's nothing there. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do anything. But that happens to him a lot. They stereotype, I guess, his appearance.
And listen, there's something to be said for being cooperative and agreeable. I just, as a defense lawyer,
he says, yes, sir.
I rather, when clients do consent stuff and they have stuff or it becomes a problem, I now can't challenge that if there's voluntary consent. It's now another thing that I could otherwise have attacked that I can no longer attack. So,
but are they allowed to pull you over for no reason?
There has to be a reason. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of honest police officers and some that will make up a reason that didn't exist, and I've seen that happen too. I've caught some of them in that based on various factors. So, win a lot of cases. The reality is officers were always truthful. I would win a lot less of my cases. I've learned how to take advantage of the willingness of certain officers to lie. And I wish they wouldn't, but I know that some of them do. And again, to any officers out there, you guys put your lives on the line for us. We need you. People complain about you when they don't need you, and then they cry when they need you. So this is maybe a very small minority, and I would say, as much as I said something negative about officers that will lie, there are equally or more lawyers that I don't respect in the way they do their job. So I'm not picking on police. I want to be clear about that. But my experience is there's some very good officers or some very honest ones. There are also some that are not so good and that will lie and do the wrong thing, just like any other profession.
Michael, tell people that everybody goes that, especially in this, especially in Boca and Delray and Fort Lauderdale. People go out for dinner, have a drink, maybe 2 drinks, and they don't understand. They think, hey, I just had a drink or 2. Explain to everybody that how it could actually register if they are pulled over.
There's so many different ways, and we've talked about before when you guys have had me on, and I appreciate being on. People think of drinks in terms of what they have, a container, a cup, a glass, but it's really a measured ounce or 5 ounces of wine or a measured portion of beer. It's not however big your glass is. So people think, I only had 1 drink, but there may have been 4 ounces of liquor in that drink. That's really 4 drinks. So it's hard to say, but they have the intoxilizer. They have various ways of testing, and these things happen all the time, and they smell the odor. If the bottom line is this: if you think that there's a reason, well, let me say this, because if you refused once before, it's a crime to refuse for a second time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I can't give general advice to refuse a breath test. If it were me personally, and I don't drink it, I don't drink, and then if I have maybe more than 1 drink, I don't drive. I'm very cautious about it. But if I had put myself in that situation and I thought that there was a chance I would blow over, I would personally probably refuse. I also don't have a lot of faith in the intoxilizer that they use in Florida. The old model I thought was a lot better than the new one. I've seen some breath readings on the current model that really give me a good head scratch as the reality and validity of that sample. But with that being said, as much as I do a ton of DUI work, I get great results on those cases. I do everything from minor driving on a suspended license or reckless driving to major drug trafficking cases or white-collar crime, fraud, bribery, extortion in federal court. So
give them your phone number. Phone number.
We can be reached anytime, 24/7 at 954-523-2020.
Attorney Michael Leader. Every month he's here doing his criminal law show. And listen, don't Google someone. We have the finest criminal law attorney right here in studio every month. Thanks for listening today. Hey, we'll see you on Monday again from 4 to 5. Have a wonderful weekend. Without you, there is no us. Peace and love, everybody.
We're out.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show with Steve-O and Renee. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed